I'd learned to expect nothing from New Year's. So when the telegram arrived on January 2nd, I almost burned it with the foreclosure notice. 2 years since Thomas died. 2 years of my voice growing rusty from disuse. My hands growing rough from work that never ended. My heart growing cold from grief I couldn't afford to feel. I'd become good at not feeling. Feeling was a luxury, like sugar in coffee or a second dress or hope. I'd given up all three. That morning started like every morning since the drought began. I walked my dying ranch at dawn, counting skeletal cattle against a sky that promised nothing but more empty blue. The water troughs were dust. The creek bed was cracked earth. My own throat felt the same, dry. Broken. Forgotten by rain. I'd stopped talking to myself months ago. Words felt like lies. Who was I trying to convince? The cattle didn't care about my voice. The land didn't respond to prayer. Thomas was 2 years dead and wouldn't hear me anyway. The silence had a specific quality I'd learned to catalog. Wind through empty buildings, distant cattle lowing, the sound thin and desperate. My own footsteps, the only human noise for miles. Sometimes I'd go 3 days without speaking a word out loud. My voice, when I used it, sounded strange to my own ears, rough, unfamiliar, like it belonged to someone else. I ate breakfast at the table Thomas built. 1 plate, 1 cup, 1 chair pulled out, while 5 sat empty, gathering dust. He'd made this table for the family we'd planned. "We'll fill every chair someday, Patty," he'd said, running his hand over the wood he'd sanded smooth. I'd believed him then. Believed in somedays and futures and promises. The beans were cold. I'd stopped bothering to heat them. What was the point? Food was fuel, nothing more. I couldn't remember the last time I'd tasted anything. Couldn't remember the last time I'd cared. The foreclosure notice lived in my apron pocket. I pulled it out sometimes, checking the date like I was checking the time. 23 days left. Then the bank would take what the drought hadn't killed. I'd have to sell. Move back east. Live with family who'd warned me not to marry a rancher. Not to follow Thomas to this hard land. They'd say they told me so. They'd be kind about it, which would be worse than judgment. I should have felt panic. Should have felt something. Instead, felt nothing. Panic required caring about the future. I'd stopped caring about anything past the next chore, the next hour, the next breath. When the boy from town brought the telegram, he wouldn't meet my eyes. Everyone knew I was failing. Knew the drought was killing me slow. Knew Thomas's widow was barely hanging on. Soon to lose everything. I paid him with the last coins from the jar. My charity fund now empty as everything else. I opened the telegram standing in my doorway. Sun beating down on drought-dead grass. Sister deceased. 3 minor children. You listed guardian. Arriving January 5th. I read it 3 times before the words became real. My sister Sarah. Dead. Gone. Like Thomas was gone. Like everything went eventually. We hadn't spoken in 20 years. Not since our husbands fought over land boundaries, pride-poisoning blood ties. I'd chosen Thomas over Sarah. Chosen marriage over sister. Chosen silence over reconciliation. Now she was dead, and I'd never said sorry. Never said anything. Never bridged the gap that 20 years had widened into canyon. 3 children, 3 orphans, coming here. To me, I almost laughed, but my throat was too dry for sound. The telegram said, Guardian. I couldn't guard my own heart from breaking. Couldn't guard my land from dying. Couldn't guard myself from drowning in grief and debt and failure. How was I supposed to guard 3 children from a world that took their mother? I set the telegram on the table next to the foreclosure notice. 2 impossible futures, arriving the same week. 23 days until the bank took the ranch. 3 days until 3 children arrived, expecting me to be someone I'd forgotten how to be capable. Warm. Whole. I looked at my hands, ranch rough, scarred, empty. They'd forgotten how to hold anything gentle. Forgot how to comfort, how to soothe, how to mother. I'd spent 2 years holding nothing but fence wire and grief. The children were coming anyway. I had 3 days to figure out how to be something other than broken. Ben Cartwright showed up on my porch the morning the children were due, holding a pot of stew I didn't ask for. I saw him coming across the winter-dead grass, carrying something wrapped in cloth, walking like a man who knew hard work. My first thought, not now. I can't be grateful today. I knew Ben the way you know fence posts there. Functional? Unremarkable? The widower rancher 3 miles north. His wife had died 3 years back. Cancer, people said in whispers, like the word itself could infect. Left him with children to raise alone. I'd thought once at least his wife went peaceful. Thomas broke his neck falling from a spooked horse. No time for goodbyes, just gone between one breath and the next. Grief wasn't a competition, but sometimes I scored it anyway. Ben stopped at my porch steps. Up close, I cataloged him against my will. Weathered hands like Thomas had, tired eyes that had seen loss. Tall enough to be useful, quiet enough not to intrude. He didn't look like rescue or pity. Looked like work and competence and something steady. Heard about your nieces coming, he said. Simple words, direct. Thought you might have your hands full today. He held out the pot. Stew. From the smell. Good stew. The kind that took time and care and ingredients I couldn't afford. I wanted to refuse. Wanted to say I was fine, I could manage. I didn't need charity from widowers who probably pitied the woman failing at everything. The words lined up on my tongue, sharp and defensive. I can manage, I said instead. Voice harder than I meant, harder than necessary. Ben didn't flinch, didn't argue or insist or push. Just set the pot on the porch rail. Careful and deliberate. Tipped his hat, turned to leave. I watched him walk away and felt shame burning under my ribs. Hot and uncomfortable, and deserved. He'd shown kindness. I'd shown walls. The stew sat there, smelling like comfort I didn't deserve. Like warmth I'd forgotten existed. Like care I'd stopped believing in. I brought it inside, stared at it on my counter. The pot was warm in my hands, heavy with substance. I couldn't remember the last time I'd cooked anything beyond beans. Couldn't remember the last time food smelled good instead of obligatory. I cried then. First time in 6 months. Stupid tears over soup, over kindness, over the fact that someone had thought of me when I'd stopped thinking of myself. I hated crying. Hated weakness. Hated that a pot of stew could break me when drought and death and foreclosure couldn't. The wagon arrived that afternoon. 3 girls stepped down. Emma first 12 years old with her mother's eyes. The sister I'd abandoned. She looked at me with assessment and distrust. Smart girl. Clara next, 9, trying to be brave, chin up even though her hands shook. Rosie last, 5 years old, clutching a doll with one arm missing, eyes huge and terrified. They looked at me like I was supposed to have answers, like I was supposed to be safety and comfort and home. They looked at me the way I'd looked at the empty sky, hoping for rain that wouldn't come. I'm your Aunt Patricia, I said. The words felt foreign. Aunt, family, responsibility. Emma nodded once. Didn't speak. Clara whispered hello. Rosie just stared. I picked up their small bags, everything they owned in the world fit in 2 carpet bags and a trunk. Everything they'd lost couldn't fit anywhere. I understood that mathematics. Understood the equation of grief where addition was always subtraction. That first night was disaster. I served Ben stew because it was all I had. Set 4 plates on the table Thomas built. The first time more than one plate had appeared there in 2 years. The girls ate in silence. I ate in shame. Every bite tasting like failure, Rosie whispered. I want Mama. I froze. Spoon halfway to mouth. I had nothing to give her. No comfort, no answers, no magic words to make dead mothers return. I wanted Thomas. Wanting didn't bring him back. Missing didn't resurrect. Grief didn't negotiate. I know. I finally said, inadequate, insufficient, true. Emma's eyes judged me, found me lacking. She was right. That night. I stood outside their door, listening to them cry. My hand on the doorknob. Unable to turn it. Unable to go in. Unable to comfort. Unable to be what they needed. I didn't know how. I'd spent 2 years alone. 2 years hard. 2 years turning myself to stone so I wouldn't feel. Now 3 children needed softness I'd forgotten how to access. I thought, this is how you fail children before you even start, by the 3rd day. I'd failed at everything that mattered and succeeded only at making 3 children more miserable. Emma wouldn't speak to me. I'd tried ranch commands, do this, fetch that, help here, and got stone silence in return. She moved when ordered, obeyed when told, but her eyes stayed empty. Obedience without connection. I knew how to command cattle, didn't know how to reach children. Clara cried herself sick each night. I heard her through the walls, sobbing into her pillow, trying to muffle the sound. I stood outside her door every night, hand raised to knock, unable to make myself enter. What would I say? How could I comfort grief? I didn't understand how to touch. Rosie stopped eating, pushed food around her plate, growing thinner each day. I tried coaxing, tried demanding, tried everything except what probably mattered, tried everything except just being present, just sitting with her, just acknowledging her pain. I knew how to birth a calf, mend fence, shoot straight, survive alone. I didn't know how to braid hair, answer questions about heaven, or hold a crying child without feeling like I'd shatter into pieces sharp enough to cut us both. The 4th morning, Rosie ran away, not far, just to the barn, but I didn't know that at first. I came out of the house to find her gone, her doll on the porch, her shoes by the door. Panic hit me like a flash flood, cold and complete and drowning. I searched wrong, searched the house first, calling her name, voice getting sharper with each unanswered cry. Then the yard, then behind the buildings, getting more frantic, more terrified, imagining her lost on the range, hurt, alone. One more person I'd failed to protect. Found her finally in the barn, curled up in Thomas's old tack room, hiding behind saddles we no longer used. So small, so scared, looking at me like I was the threat instead of the safety. I didn't know what to say. Stood there, breathing hard, fear draining into relief, into shame. I'd terrified her with my ranch voice, my hard ways, my inability to be gentle. That's when Ben arrived. He had his 2 boys with him this time. They ran straight to Emma and Clara. Started talking about horses and games and normal things children should care about. Ben saw my face, saw Rosie hiding. Understood immediately. He walked past me, crouched down, spoke soft. Hey there, little one. That's a good hiding spot. I used to hide there too when I was sad. Rosie peeked out. Ben waited, patient, not pushing. After a long moment, She came to him. He picked her up gentle, carried her out, handed her to me. I took her, felt her small body shaking against mine. Didn't know what to do except hold on. Ben met my eyes over Rosie's head, saw everything, the fear, the failure, the desperate incompetence. Didn't judge, just nodded toward the house. We sat on the porch while the children played. His boys were showing the girls how to make whistles from grass. Normal sounds, laughter, things I'd forgotten. Children made. "I was you 3 years ago," Ben said quietly. "Couldn't boil water without burning it. Couldn't braid hair. Couldn't answer when they asked why Mama left." I looked at him. Really looked. Saw the same exhaustion I felt. The same fear of failing. The same determination to keep trying, despite not knowing how. "I don't know what I'm doing," I admitted. First honest thing I'd said in days. Maybe years. "Nobody does," he said. "We just keep showing up. Keep trying. Keep learning. That's all we can do." He offered, then, not rescue, partnership. He'd teach Emma ranch skills, give her purpose and competence. Bring his children over to play with the younger girls. Normalize their days. Check in daily. Not take over. Not fix everything. Just help. Every instinct screamed refuse. Pride demanded I handle this alone. I'd survived 2 years without help, survived drought and widowhood and slow dying. Accepting help felt like admitting I'd been failing all along. Felt like admitting I'd been dying instead of living. But the children deserved better than my pride. "I'm their guardian," I said, voice firm. "Not you. I'm learning to be what they need. But I need help learning. That's not the same as needing someone to do it for me." Ben nodded. "I know the difference. They stay with me. This is their home now. I'm responsible. I understand. You're helping, not rescuing. There's a difference." "There is," he agreed. I looked at Emma, watching Ben's son show her how to rope a fence post. Saw something in her face I hadn't seen before. Interest, engagement, maybe even the start of hope. "All right," I said. Ben stood, extended his hand. We shook. Partnership. Not romance. Not rescue. Just 2 desperate parents trying to keep children afloat. When he left that evening, Emma asked, "Is he coming back?" "Yes," I said. She nodded. Something like relief crossed her face. I wondered if she saw the same relief on mine. I'd gotten used to silence. Noise meant people. People meant loss. But these children had already lost enough. So I'd learned to stand the sound of living again, even if it terrified me. We fell into rhythm the way water finds cracks in stone slowly. Then, all at once. Ben's morning knock became expected. I stopped startling when I heard his boots on the porch. Stopped pretending I wasn't listening for them. He'd arrive at dawn with coffee that was actually good, not the bitter fuel I'd been choking down for 2 years, but real coffee with care in the brewing. We'd drink it on the porch in silence. Not uncomfortable silence, companionable quiet. The difference mattered. I'd spent 2 years in lonely silence. This was different. This was shared. I watched Emma transform over those first weeks. She followed Ben like a shadow, learning to rope, mend fence, care for horses. Her shoulders straightened with competence. She stopped looking like prey and started moving like a rancher. I saw myself at 12 in her before loss taught me to hunch. Ben taught different than I did. I commanded. He asked, "Think you could try it this way instead of do it like this?" He gave choices instead of orders. listened more than he spoke. I absorbed his technique like my body had absorbed ranch work years ago through observation. Through watching what worked. Clara had nightmares the second week. I heard her crying but didn't know what to do. Stood frozen outside her door, paralyzed by my own inadequacy. Ben's older son mentioned casually at breakfast that warm milk helped when he couldn't sleep, that his papa would sit with him until the bad dreams faded. I tried it that night with Rosie. Warm milk, sitting together in the dark, not talking, just being present. It worked. She fell asleep in my lap. I carried her to bed, tucked her in. Felt something crack in my chest, not breaking, but opening. Ben fixed things without asking. My broken porch step that I'd been meaning to repair for 6 months. The loose hinge on the barn door. Small things that had stopped mattering when I was alone, but mattered now that people noticed. I pretended not to notice. Noticed everything. The way he spoke softly to the children. The way he never raised his voice, even when frustrated. The way he modeled patience I'd forgotten existed. Men and their quiet strength. Sometimes the kindest language had no words. Emma started asking questions about her mother. Hard questions. Did Mama talk about me? Why didn't you visit? Were you mad at her? I answered honestly. Told her about the fight between our husbands. The pride that poisoned everything. The silence that became years. Told her I was sorry. That I'd wasted 20 years on stubbornness. That I wished I'd known her mother again before the end. Emma listened, absorbed. Finally said, Mama missed you. She told me once. I cried then, right there at the table with Emma watching. Didn't try to hide it. Let her see grief was normal, was allowed, was part of loving people who left. She hugged me. First physical affection she'd offered. I held on, maybe too tight. Clara started showing me drawings. Page after page of them, the ranch, the animals, stick figures that were clearly us. In her pictures, there were always 6 people. Me, the 3 girls, Ben, his boys. 6 people around one table. I looked at those drawings and felt my carefully constructed walls developing fault lines. One evening, Ben stayed for supper. I'd invited him without planning to. The words just came out. You should stay. I made enough. 6 plates on the table. Thomas built 6 voices. Emma told a story about learning to rope. Ben's youngest made everyone laugh with a joke. Clara smiled. Rosie asked for seconds. Normal, ordinary, precious, beyond words. After Ben left, I cleared the table and counted plates. 6. When had I stopped setting just 1? When had I started anticipating 6 people instead of mourning the family that never came? I told myself this was temporary. When the ranch stabilized, when the girls settled, when I learned to manage alone, Ben would stop coming. We'd go back to being separate. I'd handle it myself again. The lie tasted bitter, even as I thought it. That night, I cried for the first time since Thomas died. Not because I was sad, though because I was feeling again, because I'd let someone in, because 3 orphans and a widower had thawed parts of me I'd thought permanently frozen. I didn't know if that was healing or fresh wounds waiting to bleed. Maybe both. Maybe healing always hurt before it helped. I caught myself humming while cooking breakfast the next morning. Stopped, stared at my hands on the spoon. When had I started humming, I'd been silent so long. Noise felt like betrayal. Thomas was dead. My sister was dead. What right did I have to hum? But Rosie was watching me with those big eyes, and I realized she needed to see that life continued. That sound returned. That women could sing again after sorrow. So I kept humming, even though it hurt. The sixth plate appeared on my table before I'd decided to set it. My hands knew before my heart admitted we weren't four anymore. Waiting to become two again, when Ben left. We were becoming six. I didn't know what to call that yet. Family felt presumptuous. Arrangement felt cold. We were something in between, something growing, something I was terrified to name. I made the mistake of letting myself hope, and hope made me vulnerable. For 3 weeks, I'd been running on determination and borrowed technique. Wake at 4. Check cattle. Make breakfast. Teach Clara reading. Do laundry. Cook lunch. Work with Emma on ranch skills. Comfort Rosie's fears. Make dinner. Mend clothes. Plan finances with money I didn't have. Fall into bed at 11. Repeat. I thought if I worked hard enough, I could outrun inadequacy. Could become good enough through sheer effort. Could will myself into being the person these children needed. My body had other ideas. I was in the barn checking feed when my legs simply stopped working. Not dramatically. I just sat down to rest for a minute and couldn't get up. Legs wouldn't obey. Mind wouldn't focus. I stared at my hands shaking and thought I'm done. I've got nothing left. Ben found me there. Didn't panic or lecture. Just sat beside me in the hay. Waited. The words came out without permission. I don't know how to do this. My voice cracked. I don't know how to be what they need. I don't even know who I am anymore. I'd been Thomas's wife. Then Thomas's widow. Then just a failing rancher counting days until foreclosure. Now I was supposed to be an aunt, a mother, a person worthy of 3 children's trust. I didn't know how to be any of those things. Ben was quiet for a long moment. Then, you're learning. That's all any of us can do. You make it look easy. He laughed, short and bitter. You think I knew how to braid hair when Sarah died? I pulled Maggie so tight, she cried. Took me 6 months to figure out girls need gentleness. Another 6 to learn gentleness isn't weakness. He looked at me. You're 2 weeks in. Patricia, give yourself time. Time. I didn't have time. Had 20 days until foreclosure. Had 3 traumatized children who needed stability yesterday. Had no idea what I was doing and no time to figure it out. I'm failing them, I whispered. You're showing up, Ben said. That's not the same as failing. Something in those words settled in my chest. Loosened the knot I'd been carrying. Showing up. That I could do. I'd been showing up for 2 years. Showing up for drought and death and loss. I could show up for 3 children, even if I didn't know what I was doing. Tomorrow, I said slowly. Could you take Emma and Clara for morning work? I need time with just Rosie. Need to learn to be present instead of busy. Ben nodded. Of course. First time I'd asked for help instead of accepting offered help. First time I'd consciously delegated instead of just surrendering. The difference mattered. That afternoon, I sat with Rosie. No agenda. No teaching or tasks or trying to fix anything. Just sat. She climbed into my lap, small and warm and trusting in a way that terrified me. Why did Mama have to die? She asked. I'd been preparing for hard questions. Had answers rehearsed about heaven and peace and God's plan. But sitting there with her small body against mine, the rehearsed words felt like lies. I don't know, sweetheart. I said instead, honest, raw. I don't know why Papa had to die either. I wish I had better answers, but we're here. We're still here. That has to mean something. She was quiet. Then, "You won't go away like Mama?" My heart cracked. "I'm not going anywhere, I promise." Promises felt dangerous. Death had taught me nothing lasts. But that was exactly why promises mattered, because nothing lasted. Because loss was inevitable. Choosing to commit anyway was the bravest act. That evening, Emma found me alone in the kitchen. She'd been watching me all day with those assessing eyes. "I was so angry at her," she said quietly. "At Mama. For dying. For leaving us." I told her I hated her 2 days before she got sick. I didn't mean it. I knew that particular guilt. Had carried it about Thomas for 2 years. All the things I'd said in frustration. The times I'd chosen ranch work over conversation. The last morning when I'd been short with him about fixing the fence. If I'd known. If I'd known it was the last time. "Love doesn't cause death," I told Emma. Told myself, love just makes death hurt more. But that doesn't mean we loved wrong. She cried. I held her. We healed each other a little. I'd been so afraid of loving them that I hadn't noticed I already did. Love hadn't asked permission. It had just moved in with 3 scared girls and refused to leave. That night I lay awake thinking about Ben, about the way he'd sat with me in the barn, patient and unjudging, about his morning coffee and his steady presence and the way he made 6 people feel normal instead of broken. I was falling slowly, terrifyingly, into something I'd thought died with Thomas. Not the same love, different, but real. The thought should have terrified me. It did terrify me. But somewhere under the terror was something else. Something that felt like maybe, possibly, hope. The drought broke in late February, but the rain brought its own kind of trouble. I woke to thunder and the sound of water hammering the roof. After 18 months of drought, the rain should have felt like salvation. Instead, felt like warning. Too much too fast. The land couldn't absorb it. The hard-packed earth would shed it like stone. Ben arrived at dawn, rain-soaked and urgent. "Flash flood," he said. No greeting. No ceremony. "Creek's rising. We need to move cattle to high ground. Now?" No question about cooperation. No asking if I needed help. Just the assumption we'd work together, because that's what partners did. We worked in mud and rain for hours. Exhausting. Brutal work. I knew my land. Ben knew flood patterns. We didn't discuss strategy. We just moved together, reading each other's intentions, collaborating without conscious decision. Emma helped drive cattle. Proved her training. Proved her competence. I watched her work and felt pride swell in my chest. My niece. My girl. Growing strong. The creek rose fast. Muddy water, churning with debris and violence. I was moving the last group of cattle when my foot slipped. 1 second I was on solid ground. Next second, sliding toward rising water. Ben's hand caught mine. Pulled me back. For a moment, we were face to face. Breathing hard. His hand solid around my wrist. "Careful," he said. Something passed between us. Recognition, understanding, something unnamed that made my breath catch. We got the cattle moved, both our herds safe on high ground. Exhausted and soaked, we gathered both families in my house. 6 people dripping mud, sharing food and warmth and relief. The children fell asleep in a pile. Rosie curled against Clara, Emma's head on Ben's son's shoulder, normal and sweet and precious. Ben and I sat by the fire, not talking, just being comfortable in the flood. We'd functioned as one unit. No leader, no follower, just partnership. He'd deferred to my judgment about my land. I'd trusted his experience with floods, neither commanding, neither obeying, collaborating. That was different. That was foundation. The next day, town gossip found me at the general store. Mrs. Harrison, older woman with kind eyes and hard opinions, pulled me aside. Might want to be more careful about appearances. Dear, her voice low, confidential. You've got young girls to think about. People talk. The widower and the widow. Too much time together. Improper. Scandalous. I felt shame burn under my skin. Old shame. The kind that comes from knowing your actions are being judged, your choices questioned, your reputation dissected by people who don't understand and don't need to. My first instinct was to pull back, protect the girls from gossip, protect myself from judgment. Send Ben away before rumors became truth. But Emma had overheard. She found me outside the store. Are you going to send Mr. Cartwright away because of what people say? I looked at her. 12 years old and too wise. Already learning that women's choices got scrutinized, judged, controlled by others' opinions. No, I said. Decided it as I spoke it. No, I'm not. Good, she nodded. He makes you less sad. I'm out of the mouths of children. Truth I'd been avoiding. That night, I couldn't sleep. Lay awake thinking about gossip and judgment and fear, about what I was building and what it could cost, about choosing safety over truth, protection over love, other people's comfort over my own life. I'd been letting fear dictate my choices for 2 years. Fear of feeling, fear of losing, fear of trying and failing. Fear had kept me small and safe and slowly dying. Maybe it was time to choose different. Fear came for me in the dark hours, when the children slept and I had only my doubts for company. I lay awake staring at ceiling beams Thomas had raised, counting my failures like sheep. The foreclosure payment was due in 2 weeks, 14 days. I had no money. Ben's partnership helped with daily survival, but couldn't solve debt accumulated over 2 years of drought. The bank would take the ranch. Then where would we go, 4 people with nothing? Dependent on charity and pity and the kindness of others who'd whisper about the widow who couldn't make it. Work. The practical solution lined up neat and logical in my mind. I had a cousin in Boston, Margaret, well off, childless, always wanting children. She could give the girls stability, education, society, everything I couldn't provide. I could send them east, find work somewhere, start over alone like I should have stayed alone, responsible only for myself, unable to disappoint anyone but me. The plan made sense, felt inevitable. I got up, sat at Thomas's table with paper and pen, started writing. Dear Margaret, I regret to inform you that I am unable to adequately care for. The words came easily. Too easily. Lies always did. I was good at lying to myself by now. Good at calling retreat strategy, calling surrender wisdom, calling abandonment protection. I'd be saving them from disappointment, from watching me fail, from losing another person they'd learned to love. Better to leave now. Clean break. Before roots went too deep. Before they depended on me completely. Before I inevitably let them down worse. I sealed the letter, addressed it, set it on the table next to the foreclosure notice. 2 endings, 2 escapes. 2 ways of running disguised as responsible choices. I was good at leaving. I'd left my family for Thomas 20 years ago. Left my sister after the fight. Left myself after Thomas died, abandoned the woman I'd been, became someone harder. Leaving was my oldest skill. Staying was what terrified me. A sound from the hallway. Small feet on wood floors. Rosie appeared in the doorway, clutching her one-armed doll, eyes sleepy and scared. "Bad dream," she whispered. I opened my arms. She climbed into my lap, small and warm and trusting. "Don't go away like Mama," she said, half asleep. "Please don't go." She wasn't talking about her mother, talking about me. I held her and felt my carefully built justifications crumble like drought-dead earth. I wasn't protecting the children. I was protecting myself, protecting my heart from more breaking, from more loss, from the terrifying possibility of building something and watching it burn. I'd survived Thomas's death by turning to stone. Stone didn't feel, stone didn't bleed, stone didn't break. But these children, this man, this life, they were asking me to be flesh again. Flesh feels, flesh bleeds, flesh breaks. That was exactly why it mattered. I thought about Thomas's last words. Not last words, really, because we hadn't known. Just ordinary words turned final without warning. "See you for supper. Patty. Normal. Unremarkable. No goodbye prepared because we'd thought we had time." That's how loss came. Ordinary moments turned final without warning. I could prepare all I wanted, protect all I could, but control was illusion. The only real choice was whether to love anyway, whether to show up, even knowing everything could shatter, whether to be brave enough to stay. Rosie fell asleep in my arms. I sat in the dark, holding her, watching pieces of the letter scatter across my table where I'd torn it. Each piece a choice: stay, risk, trust, live. I'd spent 2 years running in place, moving constantly, but going nowhere, working to avoid feeling. Maybe it was time to stand still, to root, to risk. I didn't know how to save the ranch yet. Didn't know how to navigate what was growing with Ben. Didn't know if I'd be enough for these children. But I knew running wasn't the answer anymore. I'd run far enough. Tomorrow, I'd figure out how to fight, how to build, how to stay. Tonight, I'd just hold this sleeping child and practice not leaving. I found Ben at dawn, because some truths can't wait for convenient hours. I walked to his ranch as sun rose, turning winter sky orange and gold, rehearsing words, discarding them, rehearsing again. Nothing sounded right. Everything sounded too small for what I needed to say. The truth was too simple for rehearsal. I needed him. Needed this. Needed to stop pretending independence was the same as strength. He was in the barn, already working, saw me coming, read something in my face because he set down his tools, wiped his hands, waited. I opened my mouth. All the rehearsed words scattered like startled birds. What remained was truth, too honest for Polish. "I can't do this alone." My voice shook. "Don't want to do this alone, but I need to be clear. I'm not asking you to save me. I'm asking if you want to build something together." Ben was very still, listening with his whole attention, the way he listened to everyone, making space for my words to matter. "Partnership," I continued. "Real partnership. Not you rescuing me, not me accepting charity. 2 people building something neither could build alone." "What kind of partnership?" His voice, careful, not assuming, not pushing, giving me room to define it. I took a breath, stepped off the cliff. Combine the ranches, pool resources, raise all 5 children together, become business partners. Pause. The scary part, become more than business partners, if you want that. There it was, vulnerable, terrifying, true. Ben stepped closer. I've been hoping you'd ask, but I needed it to be your choice. Needed you to choose this, not accept it because you had no other option. I'm choosing, I said. Clear? Definite. I choose this. I choose the children. I choose the risk. I choose partnership over isolation. I choose to believe broken people can build something whole together. He smiled. Rare thing. His smile, worth seeing. We talked details then. Practical matters. His ranch was profitable. My land had valuable water rights, good grazing capacity. Combined, we could not only survive, but thrive. I bring value too, I insisted. My land, my water rights, my skill. This isn't charity. This is investment. Mutual benefit? I know, Ben said. I've always known that. We'd merge the operations, split decisions equally. Share labor, share profits, share responsibility. A true partnership in every sense. Then the harder conversation. The children, I said. I need to make this clear to them. Need them to understand this is permanent. That I'm not sending them away. That this is home. Ben nodded. Let's tell them together. We gathered all 5 children in my house. Emma, Clara, Rosie, Ben's 2 boys. They sat watching us with big eyes, understanding something important was happening even if they didn't know what. I knelt down to their level, met each child's eyes. We're combining families, I said. Simple, direct. Mr. Cartwright and I are becoming partners. The ranches are merging. You're all going to be raised together. As family, Emma's voice, quiet, so we're staying forever. The weight of that question, the fear beneath it, the hope she was afraid to voice. Yes, I said, firm, clear, promise. This is home now. You're home forever, Emma cried. So did Clara. Rosie climbed into my lap. The boys grinned. Ben's hand found mine, not romantic gesture, just practical solidarity. We were a family now, chosen, built from broken pieces, imperfect and real, and ours. Later, we stood on my porch, all 6 of us, looking at land that belonged to all of us now. Not mine, not his, ours. I thought about the woman I'd been in January, numb, broken, expecting nothing. She wouldn't recognize me now. Wouldn't believe 3 traumatized children and a stranger could become family. Wouldn't believe broken hearts could heal each other. Wouldn't believe the worst year could become the best. But that's the thing about hope. You can't believe it forward. You can only see it backward, looking at what you built when you thought you were just surviving. Thank you, I said to Ben, not sure what I was thanking him for. Everything. Nothing. Being there. Being patient. Being willing to build with me instead of for me. He squeezed my hand. Thank you for choosing this, for choosing us. I looked at the children playing, at Emma teaching the younger ones to rope, at Clara drawing her pictures, at Rosie laughing actual laughter, clear and bright. I'd expected nothing that January instead got everything. Not the everything I would have asked for. Better. We'd figure out the details, the finances, the logistics, the future. For now, this moment was enough. 6 people. One family. Choosing each other. Choosing life. Spring came late that year, but when it arrived, it brought the kind of green that makes you believe in second chances. I stood on my porch, our porch now, watching that impossible green spread across land that had been brown so long I'd forgotten other colors existed. The drought had ended. The rain had come. The earth remembered how to grow. So had I. It was May. 4 months since the children arrived. 3 months since Ben and I made our partnership official in every way that mattered. We'd married quietly in April, not because we had to, because we wanted to. Because what we'd built deserved declaring. The ranch thrived under combined management. Ben's business sense and my land knowledge proved potent combination. We'd made the foreclosure payment together, paid it early. The bank stopped looking at me like I was drowning. Emma had transformed completely. Confident. Capable. Teaching younger children ranch skills with patience she'd learned from Ben. She called me Aunt Patty now, with affection instead of formality. Sometimes, when she thought I wasn't listening. Just Mama. First time I heard it, I cried. Clara drew constantly. Page after page of pictures the ranch, the family, the life we were building. Her pictures no longer showed 6 separate people, showed 6 people holding hands. Rosie called both houses home without confusion. Would spend mornings at our place, afternoons at Ben's, moving between them like water. She'd started eating again, started sleeping through the night, started believing in permanence. Ben's boys had become brothers to the girls. They squabbled and played and defended each other with the fierce loyalty of siblings who chose each other. We'd become family, not through blood, through choice, through showing up every day and choosing each other again. I'd learned things I didn't know I needed to learn. Learned strength wasn't carrying everything alone. Strength was knowing when to share the weight, when to ask for help, when to lean, and when to stand. Learned love didn't divide resources. It multiplied them. 3 children hadn't drained me. They'd expanded my capacity to give and receive. Learned I was stronger than I thought. But not in the way I'd expected. Not stone strong, flesh strong. Strong enough to feel, to bleed, to break, and still keep getting up. One afternoon, I visited Sarah's grave. Brought flowers, stood there talking to the sister I'd lost twice once to pride. Once to death. Thank you. I told her, thank you for trusting me with your daughters. Thank you for the gift I didn't know I needed. I told her I was sorry. Sorry we'd wasted 20 years on stubbornness. Sorry we never reconciled. Sorry she'd never know the life her girls were building here. But I wouldn't waste the gift she'd given me. I'd love her girls fierce and well. I'd give them the home she'd wanted for them. I'd be the aunt she'd hoped I could be. I thought she'd understand. Thought maybe, wherever she was glad they'd ended up here. Glad they'd ended up loved. The town had stopped whispering. Or maybe I'd stopped hearing whispers when I stopped caring about anything except the people around my table. That evening, like every evening, we gathered for supper, 6 plates, 6 voices, Emma telling stories, Ben's youngest making everyone laugh, Clara showing off new drawings, Rosie asking for seconds. Normal, ordinary, more precious than any extraordinary thing could be. After the children went to bed, Ben and I sat on the porch. This had become our ritual quiet moments after chaos. Just being together. Letting the day settle. You hummed today, he said. While you were cooking, I'd been humming more lately. Sometimes didn't even notice until someone pointed it out. Sound had returned without my permission. Music had come back. I did He smiled. You did. It's nice, hearing you make happy sounds. I thought about the woman I'd been in January, silent, numb, expecting nothing. She seemed like a stranger now, someone I'd known once but barely recognized. I didn't think I'd ever be happy again. I said quietly, after Thomas, after everything, I thought that part of me died with him. Ben took my hand. Different happy. Not better or worse. Just different. He was right. I'd loved Thomas. Still loved his memory. Would always carry him with me. But this love was different. Built on partnership and choice and shared brokenness. Built on showing up every day and choosing each other. Both loves were real. Both mattered. Love wasn't replacement. Love was addition. I thought about hope. About how I'd stopped believing in it. How it had snuck back in anyway. Brought by 3 traumatized children and a patient widower who understood grief. Hope wasn't about expecting everything to be perfect. Hope was about believing you could survive the imperfect. About choosing to build even knowing storms could destroy. About planting seeds even knowing drought might return. Hope was about showing up. Rosie appeared in the doorway, sleepy and warm. Can't sleep, she said. I opened my arms. She climbed into my lap, small and trusting, and mine. Tell me a story, she requested. I looked at Ben, at the land stretching green under twilight, at the house full of children and sound and life. Once upon a time, I started. There was a woman who thought she was finished, who thought her life was over, who expected nothing from tomorrow. Rosie snuggled closer. What happened? Tomorrow came anyway, I said. Brought 3 scared girls and a good man and a whole new life she didn't know she needed. Did she live happily ever after? I thought about that. About happiness as destination versus happiness as practice. About how we didn't live happily ever after. We lived happily in the midst of uncertainty, in the midst of challenge, in the midst of ordinary days that added up to extraordinary life. She lived, I said finally, really lived, after a long time of just surviving. And that was better than any fairy tale. Rosie fell asleep in my arms. I held her. This child who'd taught me to be soft again, to be open again, to be brave enough to love even knowing loss could come. I'd spent so long protecting my heart, I'd forgotten hearts were meant to be used, meant to be given away, meant to break and heal and break again and keep beating anyway. That January, I expected nothing. I was wrong. Not about what I'd receive, but about what I could become. The desperate widow who faced foreclosure died that winter. In her place, a mother, a partner, a woman who finally understood that opening your heart doesn't make you weak. It makes you whole. We built a life. Not the one I planned with Thomas. Not the one I lost. But the one we chose together. 6 people around one table. 6 hearts beating in rhythm. 6 chances at tomorrow. And that made all the difference.